All right, good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Long at Colorado Tech. This is the live chat for March 20th, 2020 for ODC 874. So I hope this finds you healthy and safe and appreciative of the good things in life and not just the things that are in the headlines. It's important that we find that balance, that we have that kind of outreach with others and have that effect in their lives. Calm everybody down to get through this with a sense of solidarity and community and family and emotional support. Experts are going to do the right things. We're going to get through it. We're going to emerge from this stronger. But there's miles to go before we sleep. Okay? So we need you to do your part by taking good care of yourself and your family and being that force for good in your communities, in your role as leaders, in everything that you do. I want you to relax with respect to this course. You guys are all doing great. You're really rising to the challenge and excelling in all of your written work and your collaborations. I couldn't be happier. You guys are well along the pathway to meet all of the educational outcomes of this course. I want you to have zero stress with respect to that. And now you really have the freedom to explore the opportunity space that we have to meet your educational needs and outcomes. I'm going to talk about a few of the things I'm working on as a strategic consultant and a professional educator and design thinker. And I want to give you just a summary of this past week, and then where it's heading, and then give you some an opportunity to do some policy analysis if you want. As a living case study in the modern world. I think you might find it to be interesting, so I want to give you the opportunity to do that, and it's entirely your choice. I'll support you however you want to proceed. So this week, ABSEL, which is the Association for Business Simulation and Experiential Learning, which you can see at absel.org, we had our annual conference this year. And 2 weeks before the conference, the coronavirus hit, and we normally have a boatload of people coming from all over the world, and that just wasn't the right thing to do. So we converted it after a short discussion into a virtual conference using Zoom software, sponsored by the University of Pittsburgh, who provided the infrastructure. And then on the fly, we demonstrated that you can get this stuff done through distance learning. And we had over 100 participants in some of the sessions and over 200 unique participants over all the sessions over a 3-day period as we looked at innovations in professional education for civilian, business, as well as governmental, using simulations, games, experiential learning, and innovations. And it was very powerful. We uploaded papers, recorded presentations, recorded the live chats, and conducted our administrative business in the organization all through the web without any, well-rehearsed and elaborate plan to do so, but just kind of as an adaptive, emergent quality of a dynamic organization that's growing and getting better as we go into the 21st century. So they got a 50-year career of excellence. They started off with the very first management simulation games on computers that were used to support MBA programs and continued to expand into the world of experiential learning since then. I started with them 10 years ago while I was in the CTU program and wrote a paper for one of my classes that they accepted for publication, which won an award. And I joined the organization and committed to it and got elected to some board positions and then became a fellow this year, all of which doesn't hurt on my CV and my curriculum vitae. And it gives me a lot of additional validation and credibility with my consulting clients and as a professional educator for the Army inside my college. So when I brief outside to a well-respected academic conference and they, give me the seal of approval and different ideas and good feedback, that makes me much more effective inside my consulting work and inside my professional military career as a teacher. And it really helps the students and my clients. So it's a real virtuous circle. So if I would just say parenthetically, if you're interested in any of those topics, absel.org just might be the organization for you. I can give a strong vote of support and can help you get published and present and become a part of a really collegial and collaborative organization. I have the same feelings for ISOD-C, the International Society for Organization Development and Change Management, where I am a member, not a fellow yet, but a member, which was organized by a lot of the original doctoral program designers at CTU who have since moved on to other pastures, but who are now running that organization for OD consulting and leadership in the world. And that's a pretty good organization to develop some great expertise and learn from tribal elders. So I can vote for them. So as a part of this working in ABSEL, guys in my college and I have developed a multi-year collaboration with the University of Pittsburgh, who happen to actually sponsor this year's organization, and we'll do it again next year in Pittsburgh to try to do it in person to go visit that beautiful campus. So I'd like to meet you there. I would tell you that another CTU alumni who just defended his dissertation this year, Drian Glide, joined the organization, participated, and had a great experience. Dr. Glide, I think, is going to be writing papers and joining up in this collaboration with me and our military college at CGSC and with University of Pittsburgh as we try to help him develop some simulation game modules for his finance and accounting classes at CTU. So a lot of practical experience, and I fully expect him to enjoy that collaboration and become part of the greater ABSEL community. So that invitation is there. And, speaking selfishly, the more CTU folks we get in there, the better our brand and the more we can help shape the organization in the ways that we bring to the table, which is a powerful force for good. So just give that some thought. As a doctoral candidate, trying to figure out how to carry your momentum from your program into action in the world is a big part of what you do. And I've invited you to write about that in IP5, so if that's of interest to you, you could do that and exploratory on that for IP5 and develop your own career path forward after graduation. That's not impossible. And I'm here to support you if you want to do that. So the things that we have been collaborating on with University of Pittsburgh, in which I gave an hour-long presentation of our 6 initiatives at the military college, one of which was the partnership with Pittsburgh. So I gave them an hour-long presentation on, called it Speed Dating Initiatives in the Experiential Learning Classroom, which was really just a narrative of the things we've been doing as pilot programs with our flipped classroom experience at CGSC for the Army. I will take that hour-long presentation to ABSEL, which got a lot of positive feedback from those folks, and use that as the basis for reaching out to collaborate with other universities and businesses around the world that were at ABSEL and listened to that speech. I will also use that to further support the innovators at University of Pittsburgh that want to adapt some of those things, building on the success that we've already had. I will also use that hour-long presentation and the positive feedback from Pittsburgh and from ABSEL to go back to my senior leaders at the military college. I've already started that today. I gave the briefing on Wednesday. I'm already using it as leverage with our senior leaders as I try to get a broader implementation of some of those initiatives in my own college. By having this external validation and leverage, it gives me more credibility and soft power to use inside my profession. So if I just stay where I am and just talk to the guys that already know me, it's hard to get a lot more traction with just good ideas because that familiarity breeds contempt sometimes. They don't necessarily trust it until it's kind of been validated externally in the world. That's not unreasonable, and it's certainly human. So by doing the outreach, I not only get street cred, but it also makes me more effective inside my organization, and it gives me the confidence to know that I'm not smoking dope, that these things actually do have some traction in the world. So I will make that hour-long presentation available to you if you might find that of interest. I'm also going to do an executive summary of it in next week's live chat, plus any follow-ups to any of the things that you see about what I'm about to cover. So you have the opportunity to shape what you'd like to see in these live chats. Going forward, just take some email comments to me and I'll get it going. I respect your time and effort. I know these are tough to get to on a Friday night, but I need to get them done now so that you have all weekend to think about them on your time. And that's the beauty of the asynchronous process here of establishing these artifacts in time and place and creating a library of educational resources for us to leverage. And you'll see a lot of that idea expressed in those educational initiatives that we'll see more of. So I want to shift gears a little bit here and talk about a set of policies for strategic, political, economic, and sociological changes that you get a chance to comment on. So I want you to imagine a scenario in which you've already graduated from CTU and you're now a proud doctor, and you've got your own collaborative consultation LLC, and you have clients, and among those clients are some public and private organizations that are interested in responding in a long-term positive way to the challenges represented by the coronavirus and the subsequent economic, social, political, cultural dislocation that is occurring. How do we rebuild ourselves so that we're stronger and better for a brighter tomorrow? So I want you to imagine that a bunch of people got together in a room and just brainstormed a bunch of ideas and talked about it and came up with their list of top 10 initiatives that they want to take to the next level. But they're at the stage now where they really want to get some critical thinking from some organizational development and strategic planning professionals. And so they came across your website and your business card and your marketing pitch and got good. They called me and I recommended you because you're a good thinker. And I said, you hire this person and have them join the team and see what they think. So imagine they call you and said, we'd like you to come next week or next month or next whatever, in the next scheduled meeting or whenever you're ready, to be able to give us some valuable insights into some or all of these policy proposals that we want to put together in order to help us strengthen our approach to rebuilding the nation. Okay? So what I'm going to do is talk briefly about these, and I have uploaded the text file with these here in the Files section, and then also in the announcement folder, or the announcement on the homepage. And so the opportunity for you is to, and whatever you want to do, I'm fine with, even if that's nothing, because you are in charge of your educational outcomes and destiny, and my job is to provide you opportunities to explore real-world applications. So that's what this is. But if you'd rather do the assignments that are in the syllabus and kind of stay grounded in the tools that are laid out there for mainstream, like business analysis, that's fine too. I understand whichever way you want to go, and I will support it 100%. But I want to at least give you the chance to take a bite at this apple. You could also take a bite at the apple about educational initiatives I talk about later next week too. So it's you guys are doing so well in the course that you have earned the right to do whatever you want to do that's consistent with the educational outcomes of the course. Okay? Don't want to make that clear. If any of that's not clear, you got a specific question, just send me an email, we'll get it done. I'm here to support you. So I want you to imagine that the primary planner and communicator from that brainstorming group calls you up and says, here's our 10 best ideas for initiatives going forward, and we'd like to get your strategic planning take on it. And they said, this was our sense. They think in that group of public and private policy experts that it will take 20 years to unwind the global area of global supply chains. And by that, what they mean is moving all the U.S. jobs overseas and going to the lowest price producer and using distribution networks and just-in-time inventory and single-source long-term contracts to drive all their costs in the normal world as low as possible. And so we've engineered all the slack out of the supply chain. You've heard me talk about that before. Let's just call that the global era. And then it took something like 30 or 40 years to get that done, from the mid-60s when everything was built here until now when everything is built overseas and we just do finance and then order through the web. And this group thinks that it would take 20 years to unwind all of that and replace it with a golden age of self-sufficiency and good neighborly positive examples in the U.S. of non-hegemonic thriving. In other words, could the United States become a modern industrial Switzerland on a large scale instead of a global empire hegemon that intervenes in the internal affairs of other countries? That we become like Switzerland, that we become self-sufficient and good neighbors and take care of our people and stand down most of the military and use that money for the long-term positive good and build a healthier, happier, productive planet and be a good neighbor to people that want to get on board that train. Since we've got all of the raw materials and people and money to be truly self-sufficient, let's just do that. And that's what they mean by the golden age of self-sufficiency and good neighborhoods. Well, they think if we're going to do that, it would take 20 years to create that. We need a long-term sustainable plan that solves many of the following related problems with an integrated sustainable design for sustainable self-sufficient communities in a nationwide network of self-sufficient communities, localities, states, and regions. And that the pathway starts with, number one, regional sustainable power generation for modern lifestyles with water purification as the baseline, and sustainable, reliable protein farming so that we have nutrition in a sustainable, responsible, ethical, moral way. Next step would be open-air cities that grow their own food using year-round urban greenhouse technology kits that are locally designed and manufactured in public-private partnership in high school shop classes, supervised by high school kids learning how to run businesses through partnering with DECA, and who are guided by junior college business professors who have experts in practical application, and which are funded by community co-ops and credit unions, leveraging federal seed money for those programs, overseen with a partnership with state universities who then can build on that to offer graduate and bachelor degrees in integrated urban systems design and application, with vocational tech and as well as administration, by state boards of regents. And this would become the equivalent of a land-grant college program, but modernized for the 21st century. So in the 1800s, the original land-grant universities were all the agricultural state colleges, got federal funding, and were devoted to improving the scientific application of good farming to really build out and protect America's greatness in the heartland. Like Kansas State University, Michigan State, Ohio State, all those land-grant colleges showed the way to get that practical public-private partnership. Well, we'll do that for the modern 21st century, but with urban spaces and integrated sustainable living. Third, right now all the high-tech guys like Apple, Intel, Google, Tesla, and Facebook have all of their digital manufacturing devices made in China or Asia, in Huawei, who exploits their people, who are destroying the ecosystem of the world and taking all manufacturing jobs in order to chase the lowest cost production. Well, we got to reverse all that, bring that manufacturing back to the United States. So they should get together and operate and sponsor regional entrepreneurial manufacturing enterprise zones to recreate the Huawei industrial production machine, but according to enlightened Western labor force standards, with on-site continuing education campuses with child care and healthcare, recreation, and food service, so you could learn on the job, your family taken care of, in a healthy campus kind of environment. And then you could either work in there or you could work in teaching and rotate through production and teaching practical stuff for lifelong learning. And we need the equivalent of modern digital craft workers in the form of 3D printer savvy tool and die people. So tool and die workers were the guys that used to make the industrial machines that could give us the benefits of industrial production with physical mechanical machines. So we need the equivalent of that in a world that's got robotic workforces and 3D printers. So we got to recreate that kind of vo-tech, high-tech manufacturing workforce and recognize that that is honorable work and that kind of adaptive production can be reconfigured on the fly to produce the urgent needs of the moment. So like right now we need ventilators and pressurized containment spheres for people that are infected, but which are livable and reasonable and quality of life. So we got to have 3D printer technology to make all that stuff rapidly. So we need the workforce and the infrastructure inside the nation to do all that, to respond as a nation to our own needs. So we're not at the mercy of the global supply chains. That's the minimum the nation has to do. We got to go and buy out all of these dilapidated private hotels that are going into bankruptcy and turn them into publicly funded and then refurbished with modern energy efficiency to create education and health centers where people can live and thrive using the shells of existing infrastructure but modified by the 50%. So the first things ought to be Michigan so we can fix the plumbing and then leverage the United Auto Workers skilled workforce and make this conversion to 21st century manufacturing. And then use that model of Flint urban regeneration to train teams then to go forth and do that like Johnny Appleseed planting apple trees, but do that in little entrepreneurial zones and enterprise zones around the nation and recreate the success that starts with Flint. And then we should fund state programs but with governor supervision for other entrepreneurial incentives that could compete in urban sustainable design competitions and then start scaling with 1,000-person habitations as modules and then reward and scale the best ideas and let governors and cities select the ones they want and build out from that catalog of excellent designs. And then they use that whole 3D printing and manufacturing technology to create these open-air, livable, sustainable cities that retain local control and flavor. And we need recreation facilities in there too, and the arts and social welfare, caring for people. That stuff has got to be done too for quality of life. Don't neglect that while we're getting the physical infrastructure. We're going to need our music and art to get through these tough times. And then as far as the military goes, park all the tanks in Europe, bring the soldiers home now, and put them in coveralls and give them Caterpillar bulldozers and excavators to start the reconfiguring of this wasted urban space now. Get it done, and by the time they're leveling and building out the opportunities there, the designs will be ready to start implementing the construction with 3D printed modular building blocks to create adaptive, reconfigurable living and working spaces as we start building out these ideas of how to proceed. And then wire everything with state-of-the-art internet fiber and wireless broadband to ensure we always have the ability to do what the world is doing now. And that's respond to crisis with command, control, and coordination networks, which are robust. And that's the only reason that we haven't descended into the return of the dark ages too, because we've got the internet. Otherwise, this is the Black Plague, you know? So suppose that action officer briefed you on that set of ideas and asked you then if you're interested with your consulting group to do some strategic analysis and think about that, and you could write about that in a DB as a substitute for a lesson, or as an IP to develop it in 5 to 7 pages, or You could think about doing this progressively as you go and include it into IP5, or think about this as in IP5, writing your business plan so that 5 years after graduation, you could be in a position where, as a well-respected professional with ideas that are tested in the world, that you could be called in and hired as a consultant, or you could offer pro bono services to comment on exactly these kinds of things, bringing to bear your critical thinking, doctoral level skills. Now, that would be an amazing case study for you to work on if you're interested. So I want you to give that some thought, and then I trust and support whatever judgment you make as far as building out your plan for the assignments for the rest of the course. As long as you are meeting those kind of weekly educational outcomes and are generally in line with the requirements of the course for the goals of the course and how it meets your personal educational outcomes, I am here to support you in doing that 100%. And my job is to offer you opportunities and then give you a way to express yourself and give you professional feedback about your work and then some additional resource material. So that's what I'm going to continue to do. Let me conclude tonight by saying take good care of yourself and the people around you. Keep up the great work. Don't hesitate to contact me for any reason if you need some help or support or more time or whatever you want to do. You got questions, comments, reach out by email. I am here 100% to support you and to get you through this for the best possible outcomes in order to meet your educational. We need good people to help the rest of us. You are good people. So we got to get you through this and help you with the skills that you will be able to uniquely bring to the table in the future. I'm here to help you. Take good care. Take good care of each other. Keep up the great work. I'll be caught up by this time tomorrow.